Good evening, this is Brass Tax. I'm Zakir Jacob. The government has now indicated that the long-pending notification for the rules of the CAA, or the Citizenship Amendment Act, will be brought forth much before the general elections of 2024. It could happen as early as later this month. Remember, the CAA has been a very polarizing legislation. Muslims in India have been protesting against it, saying that it discriminates against just one community while the others are exempt. The government's rationale for the CAA is that non-Muslim minorities who are fleeing religious persecution from Islamic states like Pakistan or Bangladesh or Afghanistan need to be protected. But the bigger question is this: has this entire notification of rules for the CAA, almost 4 years after the legislation was passed in both houses of parliament, been brought forth right now, just months before the Lok Sabha election, just for political purposes? We'll get to that in just 1 second, but first, the story so far.
सीए इस देश का कानून है, इसको कोई रोक नहीं सकता, सबको नागरिकता मिलने वाली है।
हमारी नेत्री ममता बनर्जी, इस राज्य के मुख्यमंत्री और तृणमूल कांग्रेस की सभा नेत्री जो है, साफ सुथरे भाषा में उन्होंने कहा कि CAA बंगाल में नहीं लागू होगा।
It will be a grave injustice, especially to the Muslims, to the Dalits, and to the especially poor people of India, irrespective of which caste and religion they belong to.
রুলটা তৈরি করবে কখন? ভোটের আগে আরেকটা ধোকা দিবে। CAA তো আইন হয়ে গেছে অনেক আগে।
So before we get to the politics of all of this, there are a series of questions that are being frequently asked about the CAA. Number one is, who comes under the ambit of the CAA? Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, Parsis and Christians, all communities other than Muslims who migrated from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan up to 31st of December 2014 are eligible for citizenship of India. The other question that comes to our mind, of course, is about why only these countries and why only these denominations who've been persecuted there. Why does it single out Muslims? Now, the bill provides a remedy for a particular situation in which these 6 minority communities find themselves in what are stated Islamic republics of Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. Question number 3, will illegal Muslim immigrants from these 3 countries be automatically then deported? The answer is no, that the CAA has nothing to do with the deportation of any foreigners or foreign nationals from India. Question number 4, does the CAA affect Indian Muslims, Muslims who have Indian citizenship? Again, the answer is no, because Indian citizenship is part of the fundamental rights of those who are born in India and who are Indian citizens, and this is something that's been conferred to them by the Constitution of India. It's not something that any government can take away. Question number 5, why shouldn't the Baluchis, the Ahmadiyyas, the Rohingyas also be considered for citizenship, because after all they too have been persecuted in some of these countries? And the answer is that yes, they can apply for Indian citizenship by fulfilling qualifications that they need to under the 1955 Indian Citizenship Act. Question number 6, doesn't India have an obligation under the United Nations to take care of refugees? There are over 2 lakh Sri Lankan Tamils, Tibetan Buddhists, about 15,000 Afghans, 20 to 25,000 Rohingyas and other refugees who have come to India, who have been fleeing religious persecution in their country of birth. Now, despite the government's case and the arguments that have been made for the CAA, the opposition has once again come out against this Citizenship Amendment Act. Congress MP Manish Tiwari has tweeted, and this is part of our Motorola India's Best 5G Smartphones tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
This is what Manish Tiwari has tweeted, and I quote, "In a country which has secularism enshrined in the preamble of its constitution, can religion be the basis of citizenship, whether extraterritorial or even territorial?" The answer is no. The nub of my argument when I led the opposition to the CAA bill in the Lok Sabha in 2019 It's the core question in the challenge before the Supreme Court. Hypothetically, tomorrow a government could argue that religion will be the basis of citizenship, even territorially, not the place of birth or other criterion for citizenship in the Constitution of India or in the Citizenship Act. With that, let's go across to our debate tonight, and that is really the question that is bothering everyone after the government indicated that the CAA rules will be notified before the Lok Sabha elections of 2024. Is the BJP rebooting the CAA ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, or is this politics front and center?
Hello, Moto.
All right, Nalin Kohli is joining us. He's national spokesperson of the BJP, senior advocate at the Supreme Court. Dr. Shantanu Sen is Rajya Sabha member of Parliament of the Trinamool Congress. Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Upamanyu Hazarika is senior advocate at the Supreme Court and head of the commission appointed by the Supreme Court on the Indo-Bangladesh boundary issue. Let me start with you, Nalin Kohli. The accusation from the opposition is this law was passed by Parliament in 2019 because of the brute majority the BJP enjoys in the Lok Sabha and, of course, with help from other parties in the Rajya Sabha. Why wait for 4 years before the rules of notification are issued for these laws? The only reason you're doing this before the Lok Sabha elections is to polarize, and it's for political/electoral purposes. How would you respond to that?
First, it's not a question of brute majority. It is what the people of India decided to be the constitution in terms of numbers of the Lok Sabha. And the bill is passed, or any bill becomes an act. It's passed by following the due constitutional procedure. Number two is that timing. Well, it was passed. There were protests at one point. The government is in its right to choose its timing. It's not as if it shouldn't. It is an act. It is a law. Why should it not be implemented? It's not to be used as a decoration item on the mantelpiece of some political person. After all, it has to be put in effect. Number three, I heard also the reactions to it. The CAA bill has nothing to do with Indian citizens who are already citizens, whether Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Parsi, Jew. So then a whole set of people have tried to fearmonger to say that the Muslims in India who live in India will be persecuted or lose their citizenships. They are liars, L-I-A-R-S, or they don't understand what they are talking, or they don't understand the constitution or the rights of the people who are Indian citizens. CAA has to do with certain identified groups or religions who cannot go anywhere else in that sense. So I ask a question that, number one, Muslims, it will be injustice, as Mr. Owaisi said. There are 55 countries where Muslims can go to. Tell me one Hindu country. India is also not a Hindu country designated in that sense. It's a Hindu majority country. Look at the state of what happened to Hindus or Christians in Pakistan or say in Bangladesh. They are dwindling, persecuted, girls are raped, picked up, forcibly married off, murdered, temples desecrated. Where will they go? To another Muslim majority country? They can't. So they can look only at one place, which is India. So it's fast tracking it for them.
No, but Lalit, the argument from the opposition, and I'll ask this to Ghanshyam as well, but the argument from the opposition is in an avowedly secular country where secular is enshrined in the preamble of the Constitution, to single out one religious community, that is discriminatory.
When was the word secular per se added in the Constitution? It wasn't part of the 1950 Constitution. It came in with an amendment. So therefore, it just shows that it's an evolving concept. So was India less secular in 1950? Did India follow Hindu policies between 1950 and 1975-76 when the word was inserted into the preamble of the Constitution? What kind of argument is this?
Okay.
They believe that the entire tenure of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi and others was a non-secular government.
Ghanshyam Tiwari, India is the sort of bulwark in South Asia. We're surrounded by at least 3 stated Islamic republics in Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. The government's contention is, and you know, these are recorded facts, there are minority groups who are persecuted in these 3 countries. Where do they seek refuge? Is it not India's moral, political, diplomatic obligation that the minorities in these countries are given refuge, particularly when they are persecuted and when they are fleeing these countries. We have, without the CAA, with or without the CAA, we've already given asylum to Tibetan Buddhists, to Sri Lankan Tamils, to minority groups from Pakistan, Hindus from Pakistan. There's a whole colony in West Delhi that houses minority Hindus from Pakistan. So we are doing this with or without the CAA. Now that the law has been formalized, what is the problem of the opposition? Why are you creating such a ruckus?
Good evening, Zaka, to you, the viewers, and my fellow co-panelists, and a very happy New Year to everyone, with the belief that our efforts together will make India prosperous. Coming to your question, there are 2 or 3 backdrops that are important. You said brute force. That was you said brute majority. That was 2019. Flash forward 2023. Now BJP has brute force. They can throw out members of parliament and pass important bills where none of us here can have a 2-minute serious discussion without referring to notes that are supplied often to BJP on WhatsApp about what Bharat Nyaya Sanhita is, how it's different, because of which the truck drivers across the country have to protest. And this is the kind of brute force that BJP believes in. And as far as the sense of constitution, BJP, Nalin spoke about 1950. That was the time RSS did not believe in tricolor. It took them 50 years. So to say that India is an evolving democracy, yes, but under BJP, the mission is to make it an evolving dictatorship and to push people to the point where they don't know what to expect. Why are people worried? People are worried because they have a government that has a design, a ploy, a scheme, a shadyantra in their mind. We don't know what to expect out of this government. The Prime Minister will say CAA but no NRC. Mr. Amit Shah will say, "Aap chronology samajhiye CAA, NRC." So BJP's game is to take away citizen rights by brute force, not brute majority.
No,
brute
one
majority
second, Ghanshyam, let's be very clear about this. Please, if you're making such an accusation, such an allegation against the government, please tell us whose citizenship rights are being taken away. Which Indian citizen is losing his or her citizenship because of CAA? Be clear tonight.
Right. I'm saying the difference between brute force and brute majority. When you throw out members of parliament from parliament and pass important laws, where BJP spokespersons, I have come on debates, ask them, say 3 things about those laws. Most are unable to, because those laws were not discussed. This is when you take away rights of members of parliament. What are common citizens? What I am saying is this is a ploy of BJP. आगे देखिए होता है क्या? They are a government that is conniving against our own citizens to take away rights. This is step 1.
One second, Ghanshyam, again I keep coming back to that. Let's not confuse issues. The dismissal or the suspension of MPs, that's a different debate. You know, maybe you have a point there. You can't just suspend 140 plus MPs. This is a democracy after all. That's not the issue of the debate tonight. You made a specific charge that the shadyantra, that's the word that you use, the conspiracy by this government is to take away citizenship rights of certain Indian citizens. Now, please articulate for our viewers, who are these Indian citizens whose citizenship you believe the government wants to take away?
I didn't say citizenship. I said rights of citizens.
Yes.
When a government passes laws that change our criminal justice system, when the government passes these laws throwing out members of parliament, they reduce our rights. Under Manmohan Singh, India had a glorious time when citizens' rights were increased. But under BJP, this is the government that went to Supreme Court and said that privacy is not a fundamental right. So set that aside. And the reason I say that there's a shadyantra is here is the thing. When the farm laws came, they said Mr. Ravishankar Prasad, then law minister, said they had done 1 crore consultations. And when the reports came that the laws were cooked up by some NRIs and some corporates, nobody from the government answered. Similarly,
you're going into issues which are not the subject matter of tonight's debate. It is not.
I'm just saying that look at the pattern.
Okay.
When a home minister says that chronology is CAA and NRC, and the prime minister says that it's only CAA and NRC ki koi baat nahi hai, so there is a government that wants to deceive the citizens.
Yeah, let me ask Dr. Shantanu Sen of the TMC. One of the parties that has come out and explicitly opposed the CAA in fact gone to the extent of saying, both Mamata Banerjee and various other leaders of your party have said, we will not implement the CAA. Now, sir, my understanding is that this is the law of the land. It's been passed by both houses of parliament. The president has given her assent to this. The laws will be notified soon. If you are going to have a situation where individual state governments are going to say, oh, this law is convenient for us, therefore we will implement it. This law is not convenient for us, therefore we will not implement it. Then that's not the rule of law. That is chaos. That is anarchy. There is, state governments are not given the quote unquote choice which laws you can implement and which laws you cannot implement. Tomorrow a government will say, we will not implement 302, attempt to murder. Who's to stop it? So point is, you can't cherry pick which laws you will implement and which laws you will not. If it's been passed by parliament and if it has been notified, it is the law of the land, and whether in Bengal or in Assam or in Andhra Pradesh or in Karnataka, it is the job of the state governments to implement those laws. How can you say we will not implement it?
May I reply now?
Yes, please.
So it is not the question of being convenient for us or non-convenient for us. Let me clear my party stand first. Our party Supremo, Madam Mamata Banerjee, has categorically said time and again that the person who is living in India, who is exercising his voting right for electing a state government or central government, who is having his or her voter card, Aadhaar card, PAN card, driving license and whatever, already he or she is a citizen of India. And that's why we have said that we are not going to implement it, number one. Number two, let me tell you, it is absolutely another big Jumla, Bharatiya Jumla party. And once again, the 2029 issue is being used as a poll plank in 2024. You just tell me, the entire country knows how each and every bill is being bulldozed in the parliament nowadays. Hardly 2 minutes, 3 minutes per bill on an average. It was passed in 2019. President's action was given. It took 5 years to frame the rule, and it is the Amit Shah's department which has pushed the deadline 9 times. And recently, Mr. Teni, who is the main accused of this Lakhimpur Kheri, once again he has said that the subordinate legislation committee for Lok Sabha will decide on 9th of January, and that in Rajya Sabha will decide on 30th of March. So again they have pushed for another, so altogether it has been pushed for 9 times, number one. Number two, let me remind you, Amit Shah, when he comes to Calcutta or West Bengal, he says something else regarding CAA and NRC. When he goes to Assam, he says something different regarding CAA and NRC. And when the assembly election knocks the door of Gujarat, they choose some few districts of Gujarat. So for the implementation of this rule or act is concerned.
No, Dr. Sen,
so it is absolutely a big Julma,
one of the points you made is anybody who has an Aadhaar card or a voter ID or a PAN card is an Indian citizen de facto, if not de jure. Now, these documentations that you have identified and you have articulated are, identity certificates. They are not necessarily proof of citizenship. Now, the government is trying to seek the distinction that anybody who gets an Aadhaar or a driver's license does not necessarily automatically become a citizen of India. To be a citizen of India, as my understanding is from the Citizenship Act, you have to either show proof that you were born in India or you become a naturalized citizen. Now, the point that the government is making is that just because you have any of these proofs of identification does not mean you're a citizen of India. That is something that you have to prove, either by birth or by naturalization. Is that not a reasonable argument?
If you go through this CAA in details, you will see that this CAA violates Article 6 of Indian Constitution, This CAA violates Article 14 of Indian Constitution, which speaks about equality before law.
How?
It severely violates Article
how
25
does it
of
violate?
Indian Constitution, which speaks about freedom of religion.
How does it violate?
They have they have categorically targeted one particular religion. And you know what the religion is. By two ways. Number one, by persecution of non-Muslim in the neighboring Muslim countries. And this CAA does not include the Muslim migrants in the preferred list. If you go through the list, it speaks about 6 other religions.
Okay.
So it is absolutely a political jumla once again, as this 24 election is knocking the door.
Okay. Let me ask Upamanyu Hazarika 2 questions and then I'll go to
once again
Nalin,
BJP
Nalin
is going to
Goli.
fail miserably.
Upamanyu Hazarika, 2 questions. One, what Dr. Shantanu Sen said, that this is violative of Article 14, right to equality, and violative of Article 25, right to practice, profess your religion of choice. How would you respond to that? Number one. And number two, particularly in Assam, this has been a big bone of contention because many in Assam, in Assamese civil society, are saying that this is violative of the 1985 Assam Accords. So please respond to both of those points.
Let me answer the second question first, because that was the Northeast perspective. Because you see, as far as CAA is concerned, there are various views across all over the country. It has a differing impact in different parts of the country, but how it impacts us, let me put that first so that I can probably then address the first part later. You see, as far as Assam is concerned, we signed an Assam Accord in 1971, under which we took the burden of 23 years of additional migrants being given citizenship. For the rest of India, under Article 6 of the Constitution of India, the cutoff date for grant of citizenship to migrants from erstwhile Bangladesh and East Pakistan was 17 July 1948. As far as Assam is concerned, by the Assam Accord, we made it 25th of March 1970. So we took the burden of 23 years of additional migrants. Now, even after that, a huge number of migrants started coming in, and the estimates vary from 32 lakhs in 1992 to 50 lakhs in 2004. That is the Congress government in the state, the UPA government in the center. And in 2016, Kiren Rijiju and Minister of State for Home said there were 80 lakhs migrants in Assam. Now, out of that, 95% would be Muslim, about 5% would be Hindus. Now, the thing is, NRC has proven to be a failure. Therefore, it has not been notified. Nothing has happened. It's kind of status quo. So today, we are facing the burden of something like 80 lakhs or 85 lakhs, or probably which has gone up to 90 lakhs, with a population of 3.5 crores. So today, 25 to 30% of Assam's population are migrants. Now, when the NRC has failed, and particularly you don't have an extradition treaty with Bangladesh and you cannot send them back. So therefore, you are now saying that you are bringing in the CAA and giving you an additional burden of all the Hindu migrants who came up to 2019. Now the point is, the other side, the answer to that is there are only 4 or 5 lakhs. The point is, it's a question of principle also, that how can you burden us with this additional number? Because what was required was that you needed to address the concerns of the indigenous people. Now today, any migrant comes in from Bangladesh, acquires citizenship right by hook or by crook and by whatever manner, because in India there is no enforcement. So therefore, they have today now taken over, and by 2040 we become a minority in Assam. So therefore, what is the order of the day? And I just want to put it, because today's even CAA being repealed will not save the indigenous communities from Assam from becoming a minority. And when I say indigenous communities, please understand that the Northeast is not one homogeneous unit. Out of 525 communities, ethnic communities in India, 247 alone are in the Northeast, which is a population of not more than 3 crores. So you have ethnic communities about as small as 5,000, like the Thai Pakis who are Buddhists, who came across 500 years ago, who have preserved their language, culture and script. And the smaller the community, the more fierce they are about guarding their culture. Now, if you talk about the Hindu migrants will be around 4 to 5 lakhs. That will be the size of one of our larger tribal communities, the missing community, which sort of centered around.
Mr. Hazarika, I have two questions. Particularly on what you said. One is this 80 lakh or 90 lakh, whatever figures you're citing. Presumably it's true, because you're saying that, this has been said in Parliament. Once again, there are 2 parts to my question. One, what do you do with these 80 lakh? right?
That's precisely what I've done.
Presumably, if they have Aadhaar cards and driving licenses and voter ID cards, what do you do with them? You can't just throw them all into the Indian Ocean, right? That's number one. Number two. I have a follow-up question. Which provision of the CAA discriminates against the Hindu migrants who've come from Bangladesh or elsewhere, who've settled in the Northeast?
No, I don't think there's any provision from the CAA.
So then what is the opposition to the CAA in the Northeast, in Assam in particular?
That's what I'm coming to. That's what I said. Today you are giving citizenship and all rights coming up to 2019 to 5 lakh people, to 4 to 5 lakh, which has a size which, given our indigenous community sizes, would put in one major tribe. And as a matter of principle, because today in any event, we are overall on our way to becoming a minority and the influx of Bangladeshi migrants. NRC has been a favor. You cannot extradite them. So what needs to be done? Let me address that question. How do you ensure that indigenous safeguard their identity? How do 247 ethnic communities in the Northeast safeguard their identity? You do this by disincentivizing all the migrants from continuing to stay in Assam. Now, there is already a precedent in Uttarakhand, there is a precedent in Himachal Pradesh, there is a precedent in all the tribal states, in the neighboring tribal states of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and all, that all those who don't belong there, because it was done to preserve tribal culture, that they do not get any land rights, they do not get any jobs, they do not get a host of rights, though they may be citizens. In Assam, there is a precedent also, in the sense that our tribal districts, we have 2 of them, you don't have any migration over there, infiltration of Bangladeshis, because they don't get land rights. Largely, they are all economic migrants. They come in quest of land and other benefits that they get. So the idea is to disincentivize them. How do you disincentivize them?
Look,
hang
on. I think there are 2 Supreme Court lawyers in this panel. To say that people can't work in one part of India, my understanding is it goes against one of the fundamental rights of the Constitution of India. But be that as it may, that's not the material point here. The material point is, if your argument is there is demographic change happening in the Northeast and in particular Assam, what you need to do about it is a separate debate. But to say that the CAA is going to further that or accentuate that, I don't think that is necessarily accurate, because I asked you very specifically which provision of the CAA discriminates against Hindu migrants who've come from Bangladesh or elsewhere. You have not answered that question. Be that as it may. Let me go back to Nalin Kohli. I think there's a fundamental... No, one second. Nalin Kohli, there is a fundamental problem here, a fundamental question that needs to be addressed. Once again, Hazarika Saab, please. The fundamental question is, how are you going to convince the people of India, how are you going to convince the Supreme Court of India that singling out one community, which is Muslims, is not discriminatory of Article 14 and Article 25 of the Constitution?
But first of all, there are 2 different questions here. The Honorable Supreme Court is a legal forum. The second part was convincing the people of India. The people of India don't have a problem. Politicians who have a vested stake in confusing certain segments of people of India have a problem. And we've seen it on this program. They still haven't said anything with regard to how an Indian citizen is affected if that person is a Muslim. I'm saying it as bluntly. They keep saying that it's a community. I'm saying it on the record so that nobody feels ashamed about it. It's a fact. An Indian Muslim is as much a citizen as an Indian Hindu or a Christian or a Hindu Buddhist or a Hindu Jew or a Hindu Parsi. And the CAA has nothing to do with the citizenship of a Hindu Indian, an Indian who's Muslim, an Indian who's Parsi, Buddhist, Jew or Sikh. That's the first point. The second point is, when partition of India took place, that's the fundamental point. It divided it on 2 nations on the basis of religion. That was not a secular act. That was not in pursuit of secularism. So the Muslim population who wanted a Muslim majority country formed Pakistan and Bangladesh, which was East Pakistan. That act kept a few people who were Hindus there, promised, or Buddhists, or Parsis, Jews, all those 7 communities, they were promised that they would be taken care of. That assumption that they would be taken care of in 47 has gone completely wrong. It's there on national and international news on a daily basis. So when the creation for the Muslims was a country of Muslims, where the minorities have been mistreated, to say that the Muslims of Pakistan should be given a right to come back to India is a question on the creation of Pakistan. And they can go to 54 or 55 other countries. So therefore, the BJP is not communalizing it. Every political party, including the Trinamool, including the Samajwadi Party, on this show is communalizing it. They are building a fear psychosis in attempting to, including Mr. Owaisi, in the minds of Indian Muslims for no reason at all. Now to the Supreme Court of India. That will be a legal challenge. If someone challenges it, let us see what the petition is. What are the grounds in that petition? What is the question of law? Certainly the government will answer that. Certainly the judges will hear it. Whether it's going to be what size bench and all that, the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice Chandrachud, would decide if it came in his tenure. So why should we even think about it at this time?
Ghanshyam Tiwari, I keep coming back to that. You have to cite evidence or examples of people, whether they are Indian Muslims or whether they are Hindu migrants from any of these countries, who stand to lose their citizenship because of CAA. Unless you're able to cough up that evidence, unless you're able to cough up anecdotal sort of instances of people who are set to lose their citizenship because of CAA, how can you argue that this is a discriminatory provision?
No, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that this is a government that plots against the rights of citizens. I'll give you an example. In December 29, Prime Minister Modi made the speech in December 2019 that I want to tell 130 crore people of India that ever since my government came to power in 2014, from then until now, there has been no discussion on NRC anywhere. We only had to implement it in Assam to follow Supreme Court directives. This is Prime Minister Modi. And a few days before, Mr. Amit Shah said, मान के चलिए NRC आने वाला है. This is what Mr. Amit Shah said in the Lok Sabha over CAA. मान के चलिए NRC आने वाला है. In an election rally in Jharkhand, he even set a deadline for NRC in 2024. What is this? That there are two people who think that they are the sole law-making bodies of India, and even they are not on the same page. Why should the citizen trust the Prime Minister and Home Minister together? We don't know what lies ahead. That's point number one. Point number two, what problem are they solving? When in just this year, it seems that nearly 1 lakh Indian citizens were flying out illegally. In the last 10 years, nearly 1 million citizens have flown out, sought citizenship of other countries. On one end, we have millionaires, billionaires, Mehul Chokskis, Nirav Modis, and others going out, some with BJP support, some with the government looking the other way, some with thousands of crores, and then a million people.
Ghanshyam, what is the connection between the two? People, giving up Indian citizenship either by hardship or either by because they can afford to. What has that got to do with CAA or NRC? I don't see the connection.
Connection is what problem are we solving when you don't put out the data? Has the government, can Nalin tell us that how many people have applied for citizenship so far? We've been discussing this for 5 years clearly. Can BJP put out the data?
Nalin,
people have applied for
how many people from these countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, the 7 communities that you mentioned, have applied for citizenship since these laws were passed in Parliament?
I don't know. And I wouldn't even have the data. How would I have it sitting on this TV? As somebody else would. Even Ghanshyam doesn't have that. Can he tell me in Uttar Pradesh, which is his state, how many people have taken a certain yojana and taken the benefits of it? This is a rhetorical question to digress from that point. Ghanshyam is intelligent on trying to make a point where one doesn't exist. He's running away from answering any question directly. The point is that their party believes in fear mongering. They've had one spokesperson sitting with a colleague of mine on another national channel saying, you know what are BJP support base? TB. Brahmin and Thakurs. Thakur Brahmin means TB. Another leader in the south says that it is Sanatan Dharma is a disease. Somebody questions Goddess Saraswati. What is this whole thing about attacking the Hindus to create a mindset as if the Muslims would be happy? Indian Muslims don't want an attack on Hindus. Indian Hindus don't want an attack on Indian Muslims. Nobody wants it. They want Prime Minister Modi, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. And tell me one government scheme of Prime Minister Modi, where 23 crore beneficiaries are there, where there has been discrimination on the basis of religion or caste or region.
All right. I'm going to leave it at that, but we'll see how this story plays out. Clearly, one part of it is legal, the other part of it is political. We will see more of the politics in the run-up to the 2024 elections. I want to thank all our guests.